The movie kicks off in some tiny West Texas town early in the morning. There's this small bank, the Texas Midland Bank, and it's about to have a very bad day. A female employee shows up like she probably does every morning, ready to start her shift, but before she even gets inside properly, two guys in masks with guns jump her. No Hollywood-style black suits or cool gadgets here. They're just wearing plain clothes, masks, carrying pistols, and clearly mean business. They shove her inside, point the guns at her, and tell her to start emptying the cash drawers. But here's the thing, the drawers are empty. Like totally cleaned out. She even opens them to prove she isn't lying. The woman, clearly not new to this kind of chaos, tells the robbers that if they run off now, all they'll get charged with is being idiots. That stings a bit. The guys don't like hearing that, and they shove her down to the floor while they wait for the manager. Eventually, the bank manager strolls in at 8:30, totally unaware he's walking straight into a mess. The second he comes through the door, he gets a gun waved in his face, and bang, one of the guys smacks him across the nose with the pistol for good measure. It's quick, brutal, and messy. Then the two robbers grab what little cash there is and take off in their car before the cops show up. Now we find out who these guys are. Turns out, they're brothers. The older one, Tanner Howard, is basically a walking rap sheet. He's been in and out of prison and doesn't exactly have the most respectable resume. The younger one, Toby Howard, is a different story. No criminal record, seems more level-headed, even scolds Tanner for roughing up the bank manager like that. They barely catch their breath before hitting another bank in another dusty little town. Same chain, Texas Midland again. This time there's a teller chatting with some old rancher who just wandered in with a handful of old coins he found in his barn. The teller's looking at them, saying some might be worth something, when the brothers burst in again. Tanner goes straight for the cash drawer, only grabbing small bills. No stacks of hundreds or marked money. Toby, meanwhile, notices the old rancher has a gun on him. They disarm him but reassure him, "We're only robbing the bank, not you." And sure enough, they leave without touching the guy's wallet. But the old man isn't done. The second they head out, he snatches his gun back and starts firing at them as they drive off. Misses, but he sure gives them a scare. Toby tells Tanner they need to stick to the plan because this kind of chaos wasn't part of it. Their plan turns out to be pretty clever. They head back to their family ranch where there's this big hole already dug. They drive the getaway car straight into it, bury it with a backhoe, and boom, no evidence. Now enter the lawman. Texas Ranger Marcus Hamilton and his partner Alberto get the case. Marcus is this grizzled old-timer, staring down mandatory retirement, and you can tell he isn't ready to hang up his badge. Alberto is younger, mixed Native American and Mexican, and has to put up with Marcus constantly tossing around half-joking, half-racist digs about his heritage. Alberto fires back with old man jokes about Marcus being a dinosaur, so it kind of balances out. The FBI doesn't care about the case because the brothers only made off with about $7 grand total so far. Peanuts compared to big federal heists. So it stays with the Texas Rangers. Meanwhile, at the ranch, Tanner looks around at the place and cracks jokes about how rundown it is. Toby's not laughing. He spent the last few months here taking care of their dying mother. She's gone now, and Tanner wasn't around for any of it. He clearly feels a bit guilty, but masks it with sarcasm. They talk about the ranch's future. Turns out the bank's ready to foreclose on it by Friday unless they come up with the money. No wonder they're hitting only Texas Midland branches, the same bank threatening to take their land. Tanner even darkly hints that he killed their abusive father years ago, which kind of explains some things about him. Back on the investigation side, Marcus and Alberto check out the first bank. Cameras? Worthless. Broken during some system upgrade. Witness descriptions? Useless. Marcus at least notices the robbers weren't junkies or desperate amateurs. They were too careful for that. Cut to the brothers grabbing a bite at some small-town diner. Tanner asks if Toby's told his kids about their grandma's death. He hasn't. Barely talks to them at all, really. Tanner tells him to fix that. Maybe tomorrow. While they're eating, Tanner spots a bank across the street. Not even the same chain they've been targeting, and suddenly excuses himself. Next thing you know, he's robbed it while Toby's inside paying the bill. Toby's furious. This wasn't part of the plan. Wrong bank. Wrong everything. But Tanner couldn't care less. Marcus and Alberto get word about the new robbery and head back, trading the usual insults along the way. On the road, they hit a traffic jam caused by a wildfire. Ranchers herding cattle out of the flames, dust, and smoke everywhere. One rancher bitterly jokes he ought to let the fire take everything and end his misery. It's a bleak little snapshot of rural poverty and hopelessness. Back with the brothers, they swing by Tanner's rundown trailer where he lives rent-free in exchange for shooting coyotes off someone's land. He grabs his rifles. Toby doesn't like having it in the car, but Tanner insists. Crossing into Oklahoma, they stop for gas. Some punk in another car starts blasting music and throwing attitude at Tanner. The guy even flashes a pistol, but Toby jumps him before things escalate, beating him down fast. Tanner laughs, calls his brother a badass, then complains he bought the wrong soda. Typical brother stuff. Marcus keeps chasing leads, talks to bank tellers, diner waitresses, anyone who might have seen the robbers. At the diner, the waitress refuses to hand over the $200 tip Toby left her unless he gets a warrant. She needs that money to save her house. Marcus realizes the brothers are probably still nearby and books a hotel for the night, waiting for them to make their next move. The brothers, meanwhile, take their stolen cash to an Indian casino. Perfect place to launder money. Casinos don't ask questions. Tanner plays poker, winning big and mouthing off to another player who explains Comanche basically means enemy to everyone. Fitting really. Toby stays quiet, cashes out most of the chips into a check made out to, Texas Midland Bank. Their plans coming together. They get a hotel room for the night. Tanner flirts with the clerk, ends up sleeping with her while Toby lies in the next bed, staring at the ceiling, probably wondering how his life turned into this mess. Across town, Marcus and Alberto sit in their own motel room. Marcus keeps needling his partner with old age humor and racial jokes until Alberto finally looks genuinely hurt. Later that night, Marcus wakes up, staring at the ceiling too, realizing retirement's about to hit him like a freight train, whether he wants it or not. Marcus wasn't in the best mood after everything that had gone down, and Alberto, trying to be the good partner, tried to cheer him up a little. But Marcus wasn't really the type to accept comfort. He snapped back with his usual sharp tongue, tossing out another sarcastic remark instead of saying thanks. That's just how Marcus was built. Meanwhile, the Howard brothers were still sticking to their plan. They picked up a beat-up old pickup truck to use in the next heist. Nothing fancy, just something that wouldn't stand out. After that, Toby went off on his own for a bit. He stopped by to see his ex-wife and his kids, something he hadn't done in a while. He especially wanted a word with his older son. When he sat the boy down, Toby laid it out plainly. The ranch would soon be in a trust under both his and Tanner's names, meaning the land, and the oil underneath it, would belong to the family. He told his son that one day, people were going to talk about him and Tanner, tell all kinds of stories about what they did. And when those stories came, Toby said the boy should believe them, but also learn from them. He didn't want his kid growing up to be like him or his brother. This whole mess wasn't supposed to repeat itself in the next generation. Back in another small Texas town, Marcus and Alberto set up camp across from a Texas Midland Bank. They sat in a little diner nearby, waiting, watching, keeping things low-key while the waitress pretty much told them what to eat before they even ordered. Small-town diners, you know? They always seem to have that one waitress who calls everyone hun and takes zero nonsense. Somewhere else in town, the brothers met up with their lawyer. The guy didn't mince words. They had to cough up $40,000 by Thursday to clear the debt because Friday was foreclosure day. That was the deadline before the bank swooped in and took everything. The lawyer didn't even flinch when he heard their plan, robbing Texas Midland branches and using the bank's own money to pay it back. He actually agreed with a twisted logic. According to him, the bank had basically kept their sick mother drowning in debt, just so it could take the land dirt cheap later. In his eyes, the Howards were simply beating the bank at its own dirty game. He also suggested they let Texas Midland itself manage the trust once the ranch was secure. Ironic, yeah, but practical. While all this was happening, Marcus and Alberto stayed parked across from that bank, drinking bad diner coffee, waiting. At one point, Alberto started talking about how this whole part of Texas used to belong to the Comanche before white settlers took it by force. And now, he said, their descendants were losing it all over again, this time to banks instead of bullets. Different enemy, same story. Later that evening, Alberto headed into a hotel to get some rest, but Marcus stayed behind in the car, eyes fixed on the bank like a hawk. He knew the robbers would have to make a move soon. The brothers, on the other hand, were getting ready for what they hoped would be their final job. Things didn't go smoothly at first. The first bank they drove to had shut down permanently. Doors locked, windows dark, no cash inside. That wasn't part of the plan, so they moved on to the next place. On the way, Tanner told Toby they needed to hit a bigger bank in the town of Post instead. More money, one big final score. Toby didn't like it. Too risky, too many variables, but eventually agreed. Before heading in, he left his own car outside town, planning ahead like always. Back on the lawman's side, Marcus and Alberto were piecing things together over a map. They counted 7 Texas Midland branches total. Fort Worth's branch was too big, suicide to hit it. 2 others had already been robbed. One was closed. They were sitting outside another right now. That left only the Post branch. And sure enough, that's exactly where the brothers headed. When Tanner and Toby rolled into Post, things instantly looked bad. The bank was packed, customers everywhere, lines full, people talking, kids crying. Crowds meant witnesses. Witnesses meant trouble. But Tanner didn't back down. He stormed in to grab the money, while Toby kept an eye on the civilians. That's when it all went sideways. One customer secretly texted a friend to bring help. Another customer and an armed security guard decided to play hero and started shooting. Tanner dropped them both, quick and cold, and dragged Toby out to the truck where things got even worse. A small army of armed townsfolk had gathered outside, ready to fight back. The brothers jumped in their truck, bullets flying after them. In the chaos, Toby took a hit. Luckily, it was just a graze, bloody but not deadly. Tanner slammed the gas, tore down the road with angry locals chasing them, then suddenly stopped, grabbed an M16, and unloaded enough firepower to send the whole mob scrambling back. Dust, smoke, and echoes of gunfire filled the air. When the dust settled, Tanner shoved Toby toward his own car and told him to take the money north to the Oklahoma casino to get it laundered. Toby realized what Tanner meant. This was where they split up for good. Tanner wasn't planning on making it out. The brothers shared a quiet goodbye before going their separate ways. By now, Marcus, Alberto, and a swarm of state troopers were racing toward the scene. Tanner climbed a ridge with a sniper rifle, ready for a last stand. When the cops arrived, Tanner started picking them off, holding his ground like a man who'd already made peace with his fate. Then tragedy struck. Alberto caught a bullet to the head, dropping instantly. Marcus, normally tough as nails, froze for a moment, shaken to his core. His partner, the guy who'd ridden shotgun with him all this time, was gone just like that. Marcus rallied, talking with a few armed locals who offered to help. Using one of their rifles, Marcus got into position, took aim, and ended Tanner's rampage with a single shot. Meanwhile, Toby slipped through a police roadblock by keeping calm and hiding his injuries. He made it to the casino, cleaned the money, then watched the news report about Tanner's death play on the TV. His face stayed stone cold, but you could tell it hit him hard. Next stop was the Texas Midland Bank itself. Toby walked in, handed over the money, and paid off every cent of debt on the ranch. The manager said he'd fax the confirmation to the lawyer. Toby made him do it right there. In front of him, no delays, no mistakes. Before leaving, he casually asked if the bank handled trust too. The man nodded. Perfect. Sometime later, Marcus officially retired. Packed up his desk, shook a few hands, nodded at old colleagues. Another ranger told him the case was basically closed now. They dug through Tanner's past, found out he'd killed his abusive father as a teenager, knocked over banks later, served time. A life of crime, ending the only way it could. As for Toby, clean record. No witnesses had tied him to anything. The bank certainly wasn't pushing for answers. They were managing his new oil-rich trust now, making money off him in a way that looked perfectly legal. Everyone told Marcus to let it go. He was retired. Case closed. Time to move on. But Marcus couldn't. Something about Toby gnawed at him. One day, he drove out to the ranch. Toby greeted him with a rifle in hand, tense at first, but eventually offered Marcus a seat and even a beer. No small talk. Marcus flat out said he knew Toby was behind the robberies. Knew Tanner only did it because he loved the outlaw life, while Toby had some bigger reason. Toby explained it plain and simple. Their family had been dirt poor for generations. He wanted his kids to grow up free from that curse, even if it meant blood on his hands. The air between them grew tight. Both men were armed. Neither raised their weapon. Then Toby's ex-wife pulled up with the kids, breaking the moment. Toby introduced Marcus as an old friend, blamed the rifle on wild hogs messing up the property. He didn't even live there, Toby said. The ranch belonged to his kids now. He just visited, fixed the place up, tried to be around. Before leaving, Toby told Marcus they could finish their talk anytime he came by. Marcus nodded, but warned him it wouldn't bring peace. Some things stick with you forever. The movie closes on quiet shots of the ranch, oil pumps working steadily, money flowing where blood once did.